In 1986, Pixar Animation Studios and one tiny lamp changed the face of animation and film forever. To this day, Pixar remains the king of all animation studios around the world. Heck, they were even one of the first. But what about their mascot? That little hopping lamp who we see before every single movie. Most Pixar fans know that his name is Luxo Jr. He's been a symbol of the illumination that has been brought together by the works of computer animation over the years. However, what is this guy doing today? Well, he's still before every single Pixar movie in history, but he doesn't have his own standalone thing, which some fans find a little bit weird. But one fan on YouTube has changed all that, and his creation could possibly change the world. I'm Logan Greger, and today I'm going to be analyzing a little bit about PixarFan 8695's Luxo Jr. short series. So who is PixarFan 8695? He is an online animator who creates shorts based off of Pixar's works on YouTube. He also does other things like rendering, logo remakes, and basically anything he likes with animation. His channel got started all the way back in December of 2012. One of his first ever videos was a stop-motion remake of Pixar's first ever film, the short film Luxo Jr., which I mentioned about at the beginning of the video. However, in 2017, his channel took a very different turn. In 2016, he had been experimenting with Blender animations and actually created a fully animated remake of Luxo Jr., like many other YouTubers had actually done before then. But in 2017, he actually started creating his own stories of Luxo Jr. His online series, known as the Luxo Jr. Short Series, is still going on today. It depicts the adventures of Luxo Jr., his father Luxo Sr., and other characters who he actually made. These characters include his friends, Maxo, Spaxer, and JL Sr. I know, weird names, but they are lamps, so you gotta give them credit. There's Luna Jr., who is actually Luxo Jr.'s girlfriend, and many others who may appear in the future. However, if I can describe this series in one word, it's a inspiring tribute. When I saw the first episode in 2017, I knew that this project would probably go far, and so far it has. In just 3 years, the channel has grown substantially. Just this fall, he passed over the 10,000 subscriber mark, a huge achievement for many YouTubers. He has his own art page now, where he creates computer renders and art of not just Luxo Jr., but other different characters throughout pop culture, and also creates behind-the-scenes things of how he did those episodes and other projects as well. Every time I hear of a new release of a new episode, I always tune in because I'm so excited to see it. Every single time brings cuteness, as the characters are cute, laughter, as there are hilarious moments, and wonder and amazement at how an inanimate object can be brought to life with so much personality. That was Pixar's original message, and they've been doing that for characters for many years. PixarFan 8695 has been doing the exact same thing in one of the best ways possible. So far, there have been 9 episodes, and a 10th one is currently on the way. The first episode was known as Luxo Jr. Goes Lamp Lettering, which revealed that Luxo Jr. is homeschooled by Luxo Sr. At least for now, we don't really know much until the series progresses. 2, Luxo Jr. and Friends, where Luxo Jr. meets Paxel, Maxo, and Spaxer for the very first time. Luxo Jr. in bully trouble, where Luxo Jr. unfortunately meets a highly territorial lamp named Jackson and has to learn how to stand up to him, as he's kind of a jerk at first. Then there's Luxo Jr.'s dream, where Luxo Jr. starts having a peaceful dream about meeting a doppelganger self, which unfortunately spirals into a nightmare when he realizes the clone is here to take over his life. There's Luxo Jr.'s time travel adventure, where Luxo Jr. imagines traveling back in time with JL Sr., seeing different memories, such as himself in Luxo Jr. 1986, the original short, and in the second episode. There's number 6, which is one of the sweetest, Luna Jr., where Luxo Jr. meets Luna Jr. for the very first time. It's unbelievably cute and sweet. Then there's Paxel Jr., a special one in my eyes. I'll explain about that later. Where Luxo Jr. and Luxo Sr. attempt to babysit Paxel Jr., Paxel's younger brother, while he's away, and chaos ensues. Then there's Luxo Jr. Goes Bowling, which came out in 2019, where all of his friends head down to the lanes and knocks over a few of those pins. I know I'm making this up on the fly, so just mind my dialogue, okay? And then the last one was known as a burnout, where Luxo Jr.'s light bulb burns out and they need to try and replace it. So, as you can see by these episode descriptions, every single episode is a tiny adventure, but it's magical too. These are, really basic things, except the time travel thing, which is some very, sci-fi and all that stuff. But every single one of these things happen with humans, and they're being depicted as, happening, in a lamp-like state. And it's incredible how you can bring the emotions of these characters to life. And PixarFan 8695, he's been doing the exact same thing that Pixar did in the original short film of Luxo Jr. And it's incredible to see Pixar's creation being treated with such respect and creativity. It's one of the best Pixar tributes out there, and even though this is considered a spoof or a spin-off, unofficial spin-off, I can't really call it those things because, spoofs of Luxo Jr. have been a little bit crazy, like Luxo Jr. The Reckoning, which was a little bit dark, and the College Humor Pixar logo parody, which was also dark. Okay, so some of the source material has been twisted out of context, but this is the first one where the source material is treated with respect, care, and dignity. It's incredible, and it just seems like Pixar could have easily done this themselves. And since they're the kings of animation, that's honestly how I feel about what PixarFan 8695 has done. He's matching their area of expertise, and it's really incredible. It's an amazing tribute to the studio, which I love so much. How have I interacted with this amazing gentleman? Well, the relationship has been, virtual. I've never actually met him in real life, but based off of his character, he honestly sounds like my doppelganger. He's extraordinarily creative, amazingly talented, and he also lives in Oregon, just like me. Who would have thought? Small world. However, in 2017, one of the biggest interactions I ever had with him was when I actually came up for an idea for a possible episode of the Luxo Jr. short series. The episode idea was known as Paxel Jr. Paxel, who is one of Luxo Jr.'s best friends, in my episode idea, needed to head away for some time and needed somebody to watch over his younger sibling, Paxel Jr., who's a lamp who's even smaller, even more energetic, and even more cuter than Luxo Jr. Luxo Sr. and Luxo Jr. are immediately won over by his cuteness, cooing at him and, being struck with love, and so they reluctantly take the job. However, just like many other tropes, this doesn't go according to plan, and they realize that babysitting's a lot harder than it seems. You can actually find my comments in the third episode of it. However, after I posted a comment in 2017, about 2 weeks later, I started having second thoughts. It's not my place to tell him how to do his job. I was just about to head to the comment and delete it when I saw it was hearted, and he said, "Excellent idea, I will keep that in mind." So I was very honored by that. Then, 2 years later in 2019, I was actually watching a movie, and when I stopped for water, I looked at my phone's notifications, and I actually saw a sneak peek of the episode Pixar Jr., which was being made as number 7th. I literally spit out my water, and then I wrote in the comment section, "Oh my good God, you're actually doing it." And he said yes. So the episode was absolutely hilarious. It was one of my favorite ones, and I'm glad I was able to help out with it. And it has some of the funniest moments in the entire Luxo Jr. short series franchise that he's created. One of the best moments was when Pixar Jr., as it's a little bit tough to babysit him, snuck off while no one was looking, and Luxo Sr.'s reaction is priceless. He passes out just like Sully in Monsters Incorporated. Honestly, I'm hoping this becomes a running gag in the franchise of Luxo Sr. fainting. However, I may have accidentally opened up the floodgates for a suggestion overload. Many others saw the comments and decided to suggest their own episodes. Many of them are very strange ideas and don't really fit into the context, and don't get me wrong, some of them are great ideas. However, PixarFan 8695 is a very original person, and he suggests that he wants to do his own work. Coming up with your own ideas is a lot of fun. It's nice to have some help every once in a while, but having it completely controlled is not really that much fun anymore, because you're not doing your own thing. If I accidentally opened up that floodgate, I'm sorry, and hopefully this whole thing will be under control very soon. Despite all this fandom, he still holds his head high and continues animating these wonderful shorts every single year. So what do I think the future of this entire series will be? Well, even though this might sound like a crazy dream or anything, but honestly, maybe Pixar could actually create this into a series. What I mean is that everybody knows right now that Disney Plus is ramping up on all things Pixar. Like there are brand new series and movies coming out that will be released over the next 3 years and all that stuff. So it's growing big. However, I think that maybe if they could consider it, maybe a Luxo Jr. series could actually come to Disney Plus. And maybe PixarFan 8695 had the right idea, and this might actually become a real Disney Plus series. And he would be the brainchild behind it, because he was the one who came up with the original idea. Of course, if this were to happen, I would assume that things would be different than his original creation, because Pixar has to input their own ideas into it. But the original, concept of all this could come from this YouTube series. So honestly, I think this may actually turn big, and that's a big compliment I'm giving to PixarFan 8695. That's how good his shorts are. They could inspire this whole thing to launch, and I know this is all speculation and all that stuff, but this could honestly be a real life thing. I know I'm a big dreamer and all that stuff, but honestly, that's how good I think this YouTube series is. It could inspire a television series or something. That's how good this guy is at what he does. It's incredible. So, no matter what happens, PixarFan 8695 is an artist, and will always be one of the greats in a series of animators inspired by Pixar's work. I'm Logan Greger, and thank you for tuning in. PixarFan 8695, if you're watching this, you are awesome.